Sean here with BaseMint Comics. It's the weekend. I have the tea ready. It's time for another Corner Box Classics. Got 6 books for you. It's been a long weekend. I decided the Friday that I was going to rearrange the whole setup. I mean, not the whole setup. The X-Men thing is kind of locked in because it's chronologically ordered, but I moved some stuff around back here because I wanted to I think I talked in the room tour when I did that at the beginning of the year that I wanted to, you know, when I initially moved in and set this whole thing up, like everything on the wall was X-Men, you know, because that's my main jam, and I was still in that like post-Inhumans Marvel screwing over the X-Men, mad at the rest of the Marvel Universe thing. But now through Corner Box Classics, my my love for the rest of the Marvel Universe has been massaged back to life. So here I am. You know, one of these days I'll show it off. But I think it all turned out really good. Yeah, redid a bunch of stuff in my office, put in a bunch of new stuff, moved all the Fantastic Four, Incredible Hulk, and Thor stuff into there. Made one whole section of Avengers, getting some new artwork done for some stuff. The thing I look at over there is basically all Cap and Iron Man now, and Daredevil, Doctor Strange. Anyways, one day I'll show it off in the you know, if anybody's interested in seeing what I've done. But that's not why you're here right now. You're not here to talk about my interior decorating over the weekend. You're here to watch me drink tea and talk about 6 kick-ass books from June 1st, 1982. So we're getting it started, and I'm going to warn you, you know, back in the day when I would get the bug to, like, redo things like this, I was a young man, and I was telling my wife this. I was like, back in the day, if I had decided to rearrange all this stuff and build new bookcases and switch out things and move stuff around, and you know, I just would have stayed up all night, but I can't do that anymore. So it took me a couple days, and then at the end of the night I'd be like blurry-eyed reading Amazing Spider-Man 232, released June 1st, 1982. Hide in Plain Sight, written by Roger Stern, penciled by John Romita Jr., inks by Jim Mooney, letters by Diane Albers, colors by Bob Sharon, and this great cover by John Romita Jr. and Al Milgrom. There you have it. This is how we're doing it. Some really, like, honestly, really great stuff this week. Where we left off, Hyde had just shown up. Like, Spider-Man was duking it out with Cobra. And then Hyde showed up. So that's right where we're at. Hyde's there looming over him. And this is, you know, you've got a pretty great battle here between Spidey and Hyde as he's trying to save Cobra. And I was like, all right, this is in typical Spidey fashion that he would obviously be doing this. So Hyde, for some odd reason, clearly upset about something that happened in Captain America 252. Editor's note. Wants to beat the holy hell out of his old partner, Cobra. And Spider-Man's like, cool, I can't let you kill him, which is very, you know, that's Spidey. That's very in line with Spidey. And I don't mind that at all. While all of this is going on, you've got Ned Leeds and Marla Madison who are meeting up. You know, they've been doing the whole thing with getting together with that informant. And then they're waiting for that. And that's when Lance Bannon shows up, much to the chagrin of Peter Parker later on. So basically, like, they're at the police station. They were going to meet this informant. Lance Bannon winds up meeting them there. And as all of this is going on, they hear the commotion outside. And that's Hyde wreaking havoc, chasing Spidey. And so the cool thing is it's like not directly affecting that building, which I thought was a nice little touch. Like, you see the cops, everybody run outside, and you just sort of see Spidey like jump across the building carrying Cobra. It's kind of the hilarity of him just like trying to get away from Hyde, dragging this dude along, trying to keep him alive. And Spidey's getting everything thrown at him. Ned and Lance Bannon are basically like, we got to go report on this. So they take off, towards the fray. And this, we're 6 pages in. And this is, Peter realized basically, as I was reading this, I was like, Pete, I get it, but like, you're going to get creamed. Let Cobra go. And so finally, Spidey's like, you want him, you can have him. And he flings him at Hyde. But what he does is he globs a bunch of webbing on him. So when Hyde grabs him, he is now stuck. Like Cobra is now stuck to Hyde. So more hilarity ensues as he's trying to like shake him off of him. And while this battle is going on, Lance Bannon, Ned Leeds, they're both there. So Lance is, of course, trying to take photos of it. And he's also like, he's being a little bit, not thoughtful about where he's standing close to ledges, making Ned nervous. But he's like, hey, man, this is how Peter gets all these shots. Like, he does crazy things to get these wild shots of Spidey. Like, the composition kind of sucks, but they're really, like, daring poses. And so, like, I got to out Pete here. And while this conversation between Ned and Lance is going on, there's another one of these great, like, I love these panels where they do the webless Spidey, like it's his, like, it's conveying movement. I mean, I don't know necessarily, like, these are all the spots that Spidey is at where he's, punching the hell out of Hyde and trying to avoid punching Cobra. I mean, I guess he doesn't really have to. He can punch both of them at the same time. That's Hyde then gets sick of that, pulls the water tower off. And when he does that, like throws the water tower at Spidey, it causes Lance to fall off the ledge. And you're kind of bummed as a reader because you're like, man, these shots are going to be sweet. And it's going to be Spidey fighting Hyde and Cobra and, just more of the Parker luck. And so Lance gets washed off of the roof. Spidey saves him. And it's very like, Spidey does the old webbing thing there. And you're just like, that is neck didn't snap. Lowers him down, and Lance immediately gives him the business of like, oh, you saved me, but you couldn't save my camera, which is just a jerk thing. And in hilarious fashion, we cut away, and then when Ned shows up to Lance, his mouth has been webbed shut by Spidey, which is a great move. And so then Spider-Man is like, he's like, I'm sort of like, Hyde and Cobra are on their own. And so Hyde's basically like telling Cobra, you got to take me back to your, your secret hideout or where you've been staying. And then we cut to Pete, who is, hiding his costume. He's at Empire State University, and he's got to he's got to like wipe out his desk because he's now no longer a TA there. And so he's bummed out about this. Like, pretty disappointed in himself for not being able to make everything work. And that is when Marcy Kane shows up. And I dig, like, the sweater's super 80s. But I love the, like, attention to detail, obviously, in this I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's some of that stuff still paid attention to, obviously, in modern comics, but it just doesn't stand out as well, I think. I don't know. There's just some fashion choices here that I think are cool. Probably just because it harkens back and reminds me of my youth. It's a little bit more, like, nostalgia baity for me than new. Plus, I mean, while I will not besmirch the good name of John Romita Jr., 2026 John Romita Jr. is not the same as 1982 John Romita Jr. But that's neither here nor there, and a discussion for not me to have, because the worst drawn John Romita Jr. issue is 1,000 times better than anything I could do, and I would still get enjoyment out of reading it. So, you know, there is that. But in 1982, he is firing on all cylinders and kicking ass. And so Marcy's basically trying to get Pete to stick around. But he's like, nah, man, I don't. And she's like, oh, just look at this thing in the lab for me. And he's like, I really don't feel like being in the lab, right? And like, I lost my position. I don't want to be here. And so he obviously splits before she can get to him. She goes back, and like, he was lamenting the fact that the gang wasn't there to say goodbye. And they were obviously throwing him a goodbye party. And so a couple of the other fellas there are like, we knew the surprise party thing wouldn't work on Pete. Like, you should have just been straight up and told him that we wanted to miss him, you know, send him off, but let's enjoy the food anyways. And then there's Deb Whitman, and she is kind of silently like, oh, I know why he probably didn't stick around, because she is hip to the fact that he's Spider-Man. And I gotta say, I was not obviously, I was, this is June of 82, I was not even a year old. I was 6.5 months. No, that's not true. I was about 9 months old when this came out. But the Roger Stern era of Spider-Man is something that I have never read. I have been, you know, when I was first starting out reading comics, I would, you know, pricing was a little, like, as I was buying back issues as a kid at like shows and stuff like that, it was like you could get classic issues for like $3-5, you know what I mean? So like a good solid lawn mowing side gig when I was a preteen and teenager netted me quite a solid chunk of this collection. And there were things that I read here and there, but now it's sort of like I often equate it, like back issue buying when I was younger, is sort of the same, like, you know, it was like discovering music for the first time. There were so many records out that I'd not heard, that it was just like this deluge of albums and things. And I'd pick up albums, and it's like, oh, I'd like 1 or 2 songs, and I'd make mixtapes, and then I'd be listening to that for months, and it would be a long time before I'd go back and like listen to an entire record. Now I get an album and I listen to it front to back, you know, digest it, so on and so forth. Now when I pick up back issues, it's sort of the same thing, where it's like, oh, I'm going to read these. But back then it was a lot of like, oh, I gotta finish runs, and I sort of knew that one day I would get to it, and now's the day. Anyways, so this has probably been sitting in my collection for decades, and it's just like, oh, well, I'll get to that, and now we're all benefiting from it. However many of you watch this, we're enjoying this together. I don't know if that's how, I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Like, did you worry about, like, did you think about finishing a run before you started diving into back issues? It's weird, because, like, now I think you almost have to have, like, I mean, back then too, like, obviously this plays into things that, you know, it's flowing like a soap opera. But now I feel like stuff is really written for trade. And like, you know, I picked up this Donny Cates arc on Wednesday at my comic shop, and it was missing 1 issue. And I was like, well, I cannot read that until I get that 1 issue, because I know, you know, but back then you could pick up rando issues and just enjoy them for what. Anyways, I don't know. Do you wait until you have everything, or are you just like, no, man, I bought a back issue, I read it? I'm curious. So anyways, the reason I bring that up is because Marcy Kane and Deb Whitman have both been really big part. The thing that I'm really, really, really loving about, one of the things, okay, I really love the fact that in the high school years you had a cast, in the college years you had a cast. As Pete's growing, much like life, like your cast of characters changes throughout your life. Some people stick around for the entire thing. Some people are here for 2 years. Some people are here 10, you know? And I just, like, that's a really fascinating thing about Spider-Man that I've been enjoying. It's one of the things that I really loved when I read, like, X-Men the entire way through, was the amount of, like, human adversaries they had. Like, not adversaries. Like, they were, like, Stevie Hunter, Moira McTaggart, characters like that were, like, a part of the school, that were just there all the time, not punching it up with Magneto or Apocalypse or anything like that, but they were just a human element there. I dug it. And right now, I'd say Spider-Man and Captain America, for me, in 82, are doing it the best. Like, I know that I built my Captain America collection, and I've talked about this before, around, like, the brownstone years when he was living in that building, because you got that human interaction. But there you are. Anyways, I'm not even talking about this Spider-Man comic anymore. But that's how my brain works. I'm very sorry. Okay, so Hyde shows back up to the swanky penthouse. You know, he is now the doctor of the Hyde aspect of it. And then he changes back into Hyde, obviously pissed off that they're in this, you know, he's like, oh, I've been, you know, all bummed out and in a bad place, and you've been living it up in this fancy pants hideout that you've got here. Tries to burn off the webbing, but the webbing is obviously, like, too strong. By the final time when he's about to get it, that's when Spidey smashes through the suite window. Always great when he does that. Kicks Hyde loose, explaining, you know, in his head, the inner monologue, that he is, you know, hit Cobra with a spider tracer when he slapped all that webbing on him. And so then it's just a great, like, again, with the webless Spider-Man showing his fluid movement as he's fighting Hyde. He webs him up, spins him around, and launches him through the building. That's always fantastic. And so, yeah, it sort of ends finally with, like, Hyde's defeated. Cobra goes to take off, and then he's, like, escaping the cops as Spidey's fighting with Hyde, like, wrapping up the fight with Hyde. Cobra eludes the police, but then pops right out where Spidey is. So then he turns back around to the police and is, like, begging them to take him with him. And so that is where our hero winds up going to take a warm bath to you know, alleviate some of the bruising that he has taken via Hyde. But it was a super fun 2-part series. I dug Pete's, like, it's, as much as I enjoy super heroics and punch-ups, I enjoy Pete at college lamenting the fact that he can't be a teaching assistant just as much as I do any of the Spidey fighting Hyde and Cobra. So that's where we're at. Up next, I would have picked up Captain America number 273, Cap and the Howlers Together Again, released on June 1st, 1982, written by David Anthony Kraft, penciled by Mike Zeck, inks by John Beatty, letters by James Novak, colors by Bob Sharon, and this cover is by Mike Zeck, and it's a good one. So this is opens up with a Howling Commandos reunion, which is a lot of fun. So again, this goes back to the super, like, really into the people of the comic. So obviously, like, Howlers are reuniting at this party, so, and you've obviously got, like, their families there, and there are some bad guys that are up to no good, and they wind up kidnapping right as he's about to enter General Sam Sawyer. Like, so as he's about to enter the party, he gets kidnapped. Cap thankfully clocks this through the window of the party and starts making light work of these dudes who have a green and yellow motif hint to their costumes, which, you know, gives you kind of an idea of who they might be. So we quickly learn that it is, in fact, Hydra. And as they're like, the great part is like, as the goons are like flying the general away, like Cap's like, I can get to you, and he's like, it's too late for me, but there's still time for me to pull one last hat trick. It's brim full of surprises. You copy, you Star-Spangled Glory Hound. And I love it because clearly he was letting him know that there was some type of information in the brim of his hat as to where they were possibly taking him. So the Howlers are back in action. But some of them, Fury quickly is like, you guys are too old. Like, no. Me, Cap, Dum-Dum, a couple of the other guys, we got this. The rest of you, just go back to the party. We're going to go rescue the general. So then, obviously, like, the general is being used at this point through some type of trickery, mind control, to get into a base that, like, he should be in, but the bad guys obviously shouldn't. When they get in there, they reveal themselves to be Hydra, and, you know, we're off to the races. The Howlers have now shown up, and they quickly get captured. And so then, as they're being captured and they realize that, like, the general has been under the sway of Hydra, that is when, you guessed it, the old-timers that Fury said couldn't tag along have not followed orders. They have shown up, and they are absolutely trashing the place. So they're fighting. It's just fun to see these characters. Like, it's, you know, I enjoy, like, a good Cap solo story, but I have not read enough, like, Sergeant Fury and stuff like that to get a good handle. Like, I always enjoy when there's kind of, like Cap issues where it's like, oh, in this issue, we're just going back in time to fill in, like, a little, you know, thing back then. And I always dig that. So this was like a nice one of those, but present day. And I thought that was cool. So your typical, you know, Mike Zeck drawing Captain America fighting Hydra guys with Nick Fury and the Howling Commandos. That's awesome. Yeah, and so that's, like, I mean, that's legitimately a majority of this issue. And that's when Fury finally goes, he's like, I've had enough of this. He's getting beat up by the general and shoots him in the face because he is banking on the fact that it was a life model decoy of him and they still have the general somewhere else because he hasn't switched over to Hydra. Comics, man. I love them. So, Cap and this one Hydra goon are fighting, and Cap, as he's fighting him, lifts off his mask, and it reveals none other than Baron Strucker alive, which is a bum out. And so one of the old-timers hops in a plane to try to, like, cut the pass off as they are taken off with the general, and he is not able to make it in time because he gets gunned down by another Hydra guy. And that is where we are left off with the to be continued of all of the Howling Commandos together now. But Hydra still in, you know, control of the situation. But it has been revealed that Baron Strucker is at the helm. That's nuts. Up next. This is a book that I got. There was a shop. I posted a video about it a long time ago. That closed down, had a really great sale. I'd never been there. It's kind of a bit of a drive from my area, but I'd heard, like, people were saying very good things on my social media feed about the shop, so I stopped in and spent hours there filling a box of comics, and the owner was great. He still does shows. I see him there. But I picked this up then, and had never read it before. Hercules #1, What Fools These Immortals Be. This was released on June 1st, 1982. Written, drawn, and inked by Bob Layton, with letters by Rick Parker, colors by Christy Scheel, and the cover is obviously by Bob Layton. yeah, I was really like, when I picked this up, I was like, oh man, perfect. It's gonna, like, it would be something I would have been interested in if I had gone to the shop in 1982 and not been just 9 months old. So I was like, this has been kind of like calling to me from the shelf. And I was very excited to finally get into it. And it opens up with, I believe, Hercules climbing Mount Olympus. And I always dig, I say this all the time, any type of splash page, cover page, that title page, not cover page, title page, that kind of gets that worked into the actual artwork. So Hercules is showing back up. Prodigal son is returning. He's expecting accolades and women to be falling at his feet. And when he arrives, he is met by this goon, and they're basically like, hey, we're in this like meditating about Zeus thing right now, and so everybody needs to be quiet. And so he starts fighting him, but then the guards show up, and they're basically like, you've returned on a most solemn occasion, Prince. It's the day of reflective silence. The time in which we honor the birth of Father Zeus, the Golden One, sought only to halt thy wagging tongue. Thou must go at once to thy quarters and pay silent homage to the Father. So, boastful, loud, brash Hercules has shown up on this day of reflection and immediately started a fight, and is walking through the halls of Olympus, very disappointed that, like, there is no revelry, there's no fighting, there's no drinking, there's no nothing. He's just bummed. He's in his quarters, and then all of a sudden, some gals show up. And he's like, all right, day's starting to turn around. But then Zeus overhears the frivolity, and he walks in on him basically like bench pressing the ladies while drinking. This one's covering up. So Zeus is clearly pissed. In a great panel here, he's pissed. And so he's like, from the day your mother gave birth to you, your impudence has grown until it has now become insufferable. I banish thee from the gates of Olympus till such a time I discern thou hast learned the lesson of true humility. So Hercules is like, oh, cool. I'm getting the Odin Thor treatment. You're just going to send me to Earth? Kick ass. I like Earth. And he's like, no. I'm sending you to space. But yonder in the vastness of the universe among the myriad stars, thou art a puny creature. Basically, he's like, I'm going to send you out into the universe so you can meet some bigger, tougher, more boastful aliens out there so they can kick the crap out of you and teach you some humility. Now, I do my best as a dad, but I've learned, being new to this, that it is initially, when we had Henry, in the lead up, I was like, okay, it's going to be like, there's going to be a day of a win, and then a day of loss, and a day of win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, right? And I've learned that it's 100,000 wins and 100,000 losses every day. That's what it is. Like, it's like you're just doing your best. And I say this to say that I have no plans to shunt him into space to get his ass kicked by aliens. That seems like a terrible dad move. Anyways, Zeus not kicking ass in the parenting department. So then he shows up. A buddy of his shows up with these horses, and he's like, you're going to have this chariot, and then you're going to go off into space. So it's not all bad, And so he goes out there, and this issue was funnier than I was expecting, and I really, really enjoyed that. Like, if you have never read this, I will tell you before we even get to the end of it that I absolutely adored this first issue. I got done with this one and I was like, man, I really enjoyed Spidey. I really enjoyed Cap, but this is probably going to be my favorite of the week. And it's right up there. There were some other good ones from this week. So these little alien guys, they all of a sudden notice that there's something out there, and it's Hercules in his chariot. And so he like boards their ship, and then he's kind of like, it's just delightful because the banter between him and the alien is just fantastic. And then he's kind of back into like, he's bored again, and you know, he's in his little like space quarters and he's not really into it. And so they were basically like, the aliens at this point were like, well, we can't go with you to do what you're doing because we've got a job to do that we're doing, but we're going to send this recorder robot with you, this fellow right here. And that is really like already the interaction with the little alien guys was fantastic, but then the recorder is a whole other thing because he is like, the two of them together it's like a fun, I don't know, this is like an 80s like a, I don't want to say Trading Places, but it's got like that type of vibe where it's just two people who you would, a god and a robot that you would not expect to get along, but hilarity ensues. So, you know, it's good stuff. It's like, I was excited to read this, having never read it. Was happy that I was able to find all of the issues at that shop, like in the, I don't remember the deal then, but it was like you could fill a long box for like $100 or something like that. And I took full advantage of that. And this being one of the highlights where I was like, oh man, I would absolutely love to read that. And it is as good as you would imagine. Like, Hercules and a robot wind up at a bar, okay? The robot is drinking, like, oil. It's just, like... And then all of a sudden, this big-ass alien shows up. So Hercules is like, all right, we're going to fight. Like, we're going to have this bar brawl. And because someone else is like, don't mess with him. He's like, those are like the toughest aliens in the universe. And so Hercules goes and like immediately hits the dude. And he starts crying. And he's like, what did I do to you? Why would you do that to me? And so then the whole place is like, you suck. Like, why would you do that? They're the sweetest race of aliens out here. Like, why would you do that to them? And so then all of a sudden there's like a disaster warning happens there. A ship has crashed. And like they're basically like, oh, everyone on this transport ferry thing is going to die. And Hercules winds up saving the day. Which, you know, then everybody's like, all right, it's still kind of a jerk move what you did to that poor alien. But at least they're on his side at this point. And so that's sort of where that issue ends. And like I said, I can only hope that the next 3 issues are as fun and funny as this first issue was. That was definitely, out of the 3 so far, that was my favorite. For sure. Up next, Micronauts number 45, Blinded by the Light, released June 1st, 1982, written by Bill Mantlo, pencils by Gil Kane, inks by Daniel Bolinati, letters by James Novak, colors by Bob Sharon, and the cover is by Gil Kane. It's a wraparound cover. This opens up with Arcade, and I can tell you, the figure right over there, I enjoy everything that I've ever read that Arcade has been in. He's a delightful villain. He's weird. He's stupid. It's, you know, there was a great Spider-Man X-Men video game from the early 90s, I believe. I don't know. It was when I was playing it. That was delightful as a child. I dig the character. I did not dig Micronauts number 45. It opens up with like Arcade shooting this beam out to, and he like specifically is like, oh, I'm gonna shoot it to, and basically is like, 1407 Gray Malkin Lane, Westchester, New York, the home of the X-Men, which was weird because it's like, I don't think Arcade actually has that information. At least he doesn't, I believe, at this point. I appreciated that there were some X-Men silhouettes in this because I love the X-Men. And I was like, hey, Arcade, cool. And he shoots this ray like a big tractor beam. How? I don't know. Why? Just to get the X-Men to bring them to play a game where he's going to murder them. And it just so happens that there's another ray that's traveling with a couple of the Micronauts. And so it accidentally intercepts them. And so then they show up in his weird video game, not really like the arcade murder style thing that I'm used to. So that sort of threw me off. I was like, I am not a gamer. Like I've dabbled. If there was a Marvel game or yeah, I played some hockey games when I was a kid. You know, the occasional round of Duck Hunt, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle arcade game when I was a kid. But I'm not like well versed, and I certainly am not well versed in the history. I know my brothers and sisters had an Atari when I was growing up. I got a Sega when I was a kid, which I dug. But like I said, it would be one of those things where it's like I'd play it for like a day or two, and then I'd lose interest and I'd be back to like biking and reading comic books and playing with my action figures. I have been solidly doing that for 40 years. It's bath time. If you hear some crazy ranting in the background, it's because someone is currently getting his hair washed and not into it. Hopefully you can't. He doesn't like his hair getting washed. Okay, I want to take this moment to pause here. All right, and we're back. Hair crisis averted. I struggle with that one all the time because I remember when my dad used to give me baths and wash my hair, he would like hold my head under the faucet, and it always felt like I was being waterboarded. And I'd look at him like, why are you doing this to me? And I hated it, and now I've got to do it. And it's like, I can't wait till the moment I can be like, I really wasn't into this, but, you know, it had to be done. Gotta, you know, got a preschool open house tomorrow. We gotta have them looking spiffy. Can't have some dirt ball rolling in there. Anyways, not a gamer. But this feels like it was written at a time period when perhaps video games were first kicking off. You know, I don't know. Nothing against them. Just sort of one of those things where I would like dabble in. My friends were always really into them, and so there were times where I'd have to like spend hours watching them play it. You know, but never really my bag. So I don't know the history, but I am imagining that with the way this is drawn, that this was like the first foray. And because I mean, like, look at this. This like, just looks. It's not great, you know. Like it's good because it's Gil Kane pencils, and it's, I suppose, colored interestingly because it's supposed to be inside of a video game, you know. But it's not the hilarity of Hercules. Then we cut to the thing I care about even less, which is the other Micronauts and their little like revolutionary body bank thing that's going on, where Bug and Acroyear and Marionette are going after Marionette's brother. The one highlight of this, when she goes up to fight her brother, is that there is this really great splash page that I thought was really good. So no panels covering the fight, but just kind of you see all of it happening in one really cool looking splash page. And so that was fun. I mean, obviously there's other panels but I thought that one splash page was good and worthy of note. Then it cuts back to Arcade and his little video game thing with the other Micronauts. And as per usual with Arcade, it doesn't work out the way that he hopes, and he winds up blasting off to go fight another day, and that leaves our Micronauts once again not where they want to be and kind of trapped. Not a ton to it. Didn't love it. You know, Reading this makes me feel better about new comics, because it means that I don't just love everything that came out in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. That there two would have been duds at that time. The only problem is that Micronauts number 45, probably compared to some other things that I'm reading today, is probably great. So there's that. Next, I would have pedaled up to the shop and picked up Thor number 323. Comes a Dark Stranger, released June 1st, 1982, written by Stephen D. Grant, pencils by Gregory LaRocque, inks by Riccardo Villamenti, letters by Diana Albers, colors by George Russos, and this cover by Ed Hannigan and Vince Coletta on the inks. And I have noticed it, because this wall is blue and that wall is blue, when I was hanging up new issue covers in the frames on the wall, that a good yellow cover was really popped in there, and I dig that. How I was talking about with Captain America, when there's the occasional, like, let's flash back to World War II, Howling Commandos type of stuff that I like. One of the things that I've noticed happens far more often than I expected it to is Thor tales that are like, oh hey, we're running behind schedule, so here's this fill-in issue that has nothing to do with anything else that's come before or anything else after, but it's just a tale that harkens back to the youth of Thor. And I enjoy those. There's been quite a few, there's been a couple, not quite a few, there's been a couple fill-ins in Avengers, maybe one or two in Fantastic Four. There's only ever one fill-in We Missed a Deadline issue of Uncanny X-Men. And the thing that I loved about it is Claremont actually worked that fill-in issue into how the Hellfire Club was able to bug Xavier's mansion. I always thought that was a cool, like, instead of just allowing this to be this, like, throwaway issue, it actually did tie in, and I thought that was cool. And so I was thinking about that when I kicked open this Thor issue. Thor and the Warriors 3 and Loki are basically just out and about, cruising through the realm, and they stumble upon this, like, they wind up this tree gets knocked down, and they wind up going through it, and on the other end of it there is this this fella who's like, who dares walk around my domain, and goes after Thor. And so Thor legitimately punches this dude's head off, but it turns out he's like made of stone, and so it didn't actually kill him. And the other warriors are like, we're out of here, we're gonna head back, this is crazy. And Thor and Loki were like, we're gonna continue on. And so they come across Thor and Loki keep going, and they come across this gold bridge that reminds them of, you know, Thor's basically like, I've never seen anything as beautiful as this, except for the Rainbow Bridge. It's equally as glorious. And then this woman shows up. She pops up, never a good sign when a lady just appears out of nowhere. And she's putting the charms on Loki, or on Thor. And before Thor can rebuff her, Loki is like, I'm out of here. And he takes off. Okay, and so then Thor's pissed because he's like, I didn't fall for this fair maiden's BS. He's like, and now Loki's going to go back, tell everybody that I did. And this pisses him off. So he's like, you know, he's afraid, but I'm not. I'm going to keep going forward. And this is what threw me off. Thor goes riding across there on his horse, right? He's got the hammer. Okay, he specifically calls himself the God of Thunder in this issue a little bit later on, but the bridge immediately cracks, and it shatters, and they fall. That's it for the horse. The horse is dead. And I was just like, wait, couldn't Thor just, like, fly over there. So PETA people would not be happy about Thor with this issue. So, then when he finally climbs up this unscalable mountain that he's fallen into, he meets that woman. And she's back there. And so he starts following her. And then he comes upon this hall. And in there are all what appear to be warriors. And he clocks that, like, they all look like warriors, like me. But their faces are kind of like stoned into terror. And that's when the fella shows back up and starts fighting Thor. And then the gal tries to do her thing. It turns out that they're a husband and wife duo. Not good. She tries to bring Thor back, but he's not having it. He's still like, hey, I want another shot at your husband. So the two of them are fighting, okay? And I mean, it is a knockdown to see. There's Thor whipping that hammer around. He could have said, that horse could have left with Loki. Thor could have carried on himself, and that horse would still be alive. So they're fighting. This has been going on for quite some time. They wind up blowing up the whole temple in their battle. And as Thor is starting to fall, he's basically like this dude's gonna beat me, but I'm not gonna beg. I just wish that my father might have known that his son died, not a coward, but a true son of Odin. And that's when the dude reveals himself not to be Death, but he's like, oh, I was just like, I'm just testing you. That I was looking for you to find love in your heart. And so, there you go. You did it. And then he launches him back to Asgard. And so, Loki's there, and he's like, telling Odin, like, oh, sorry, Thor died, right as Thor appears. Kind of a bummer. Not that Thor appeared, but that Loki was like in the midst of his, oh yeah, I saw him die, and then all of a sudden he appears. And so he's like, not so fast, Loki. And he's like, today I fought with life and death to emerge in glorious victory. Here is a prize for thee, father, and it's a horse. I don't know if it's the same horse. I hope that the dude brought back the horse that died. I don't know how. Comics, so it's possible. But I was like, ooh. It's still a bad look. I'm very concerned about this horse, if you can't tell. And so he's like, thou contested not against death, my son, but against fear and his bride desire. I too met them all, eons ago. And he's like, they're the great destroyers of warriors, and every warrior's companions. Remember, thou shalt face them not once, but many times, and let not this victory make thee overconfident. And then he's like, to the dark ones with his gifts, I want them not. And then Odin just, he's either, so this is the same horse, maybe, that this dude brought back to life. And then then Odin's like, I don't want this fucking horse. I don't want it. And then he either vaporizes that horse, or fingers crossed, he sent it back to the other guy. Because if not, that's 2 dead horses. That's unnecessary. And then the issue ends with Thor being like, let me regale everyone with this story about how I beat fear and desire. And Loki's like, one day. But no mention of whether or not the horses were freed. I really like this. I opened it up and was like, oh man, it's going to be one of those like old Thor tale things, which it was, but I really enjoyed it. I don't know. It was the art was good. Story was fun. Not so hot on the horses dying, but it is what it is. Up last, Wolverine #1. I'm Wolverine. Released June 1st, 1982. Written by Chris Claremont. Penciled by Frank Miller with inks by Joe Rubinstein. Letters by Tom Orzechowski. And colors by Glennis Ween. And obviously a cover by Frank Miller. this much, let's see, there's just not much to say about Frank Miller stuff, or Claremont's for that matter, other than it's fantastic. Opens up just like, it's weird to read this knowing that like this 4-issue miniseries is going to be often imitated, but never like Wolverine is an interesting character for me because it's like in the right hands, he's an interesting character, but in the wrong hands, which happens more often than not, he's an overpowered killing machine, which like isn't what the character is. So the interesting thing that I like, and I'll get into it. It opens up with Wolverine hunting a bear, and just great work by Miller. These are fantastic pages. Finds the bear, fights the bear. Lops off his arm. Then he realizes, like, this bear has killed 2 Mounties, kids, a woman. This bear has done some damage because it's been poisoned and has gone insane. And so Logan, because of the scent of the hunter that left the dart in it, instead of tracking the bear down and finishing the job, is able to track the dude down to a bar. This dude, like, Wolverine's like, hey, we're going to go see the Mounties because, you didn't kill that bear properly. And then this dude cracks him in the face with a glass. And the thing is like trying to like talk about this issue really undercuts like the perfection of Claremont's dialogue in here, because it is not shown, but it's obviously in the dialogue that like there's a comparison between the man and the bear, and the fact that like Wolverine fought them both but only let the man live. It's just kind of an interesting. Claremont's really good. He's in my opinion the greatest, and his work on this is, I believe they were Miller and Claremont they like road tripped from New York to San Diego for Comic-Con, and that's basically like that road trip is where they outlined this story. And two masters of their craft at it. Then we cut to Wolverine has gotten a letter. He's basically gotten word that Mariko Yoshida has been married. So he runs into one of his contacts in Japan, and he's basically like, yeah, like, her father was gone when she fell in love with you, thought to be dead. He's returned, and like part of his debt that he has to pay is Mariko's hand in marriage, and there's basically nothing that you can do about this. And so Wolverine's like, the fuck I can't, and dons his costume and heads off to go meet with Mariko. When he does see her, he is confronted by her being abused by the person who is now her husband. So he, of course, in true Wolverine fashion, lashes out at him. And then when he goes to leave, because Mariko's like, nope, this is part of my deal. I'm honorable. Like, we're done. I'm in this situation for my family. Logan goes to leave, immediately gets shurikened to death. And thankfully, and this is one of those things where, like, in these panels, he's talking about how this poison almost did him in. And it's the thing that I love about Wolverine in those first 10 years that he was a character, was that he was written as though he could be killed. He could be hurt. It took him time to recover. That was part of it. It wasn't just instantaneous. And that is something that, like, writers have done in, I want to say recent years, but I mean, we all understand that when I say recent years, it's 35 years now, the character has been written super overpowered, can, like, I mean, in in Millar's Civil War, or I don't know who wrote the Wolverine Civil War issues, but like he gets like nuked by Nitro and comes back from like a drop of blood, and that's dumb. That's dumb. I do not like that. That is dumb, because the character is much more interesting when it takes some, there's an issue of Uncanny X-Men called The Wounded Wolf, where Wolverine has gotten his ass kicked by the Reavers and is trying to heal, and it's a great power pack tie-in, oddly enough. We're getting there. I have the entire power pack. I have read it. I love it. Anyways, I enjoy a Wolverine that isn't Superman. And that is not a disparaging mark against Superman. It's just one of those things where it's like the character is interesting, more interesting when it takes him a little bit of time to heal. We know he's going to get better, but part of the struggle is part of the story. So he awakens weaker, drugged, in front of Lord Shingen, who is Mariko Yashida's father. And he is basically like, beat feet, pal. Like, this is none of your concern. And then they go to fight each other. And he tosses Wolverine a bokan, which is like a wooden sword. And like Wolverine's like, why not we use the real deal? And the dude's basically like, to be frank, you're not worthy of a true sword. And so Wolverine's like, I'm good at this. And this is another one of the things that I love. Like, this miniseries explores. It's like Wolverine, people just, he's going to jump into a fight with 1,000 ninjas and just claw them all to death. And it's like, he's got to have some type of a fighting style. And the really interesting thing here is that over these fantastic pages, Lord Shingen just knocks the crap out of him. And he does it in a way where, like, the dialogue in Logan's head as he's doing, like, the noir narration of this is basically like, this dude is hitting me in nerve clusters, just almost killing me. And he's doing it in front of Mariko because he knows eventually I'm going to lash out, pop the claws, and it's going to dishonor me in front of the woman that I love, humiliate me, and she's going to be uninterested. And that is exactly what happens. This dude just absolutely takes Wolverine to town, and basically, like, as he stomps on Logan's face, he's like, gaze upon him, Mariko, witness his true nature, his true self. Here is the thing to which you have given your heart. Answer me truthfully. Is he worthy of such a prize? And here she is, one black eye, and she just says no. Like, your ass kicked, and your girl is like, nah, he's not worthy for me. That is a huge L, Logan. So he wakes up in the streets, in a back alley, and he is immediately met by some thought. You don't see their faces, you just see their feet. And he's like, I don't want any trouble. And they're like, yeah, but we do. And they raise up their weapons, and then they all drop them. And I thought, like, oh man, he popped the claws on him. No, sir. They were all stabbed in the back, knifed in the back, and there is a lady who pops up, and Wolverine's still like, man, I'm drugged, I'm out of it, and she's like, you're mine, Wolverine, now and forever. So next issue we get to figure out who that is, and that's, I know because I've read it, but in honor of Cornerbox Classics, and I'm supposed to pretend that I don't know what happens in the next issue, because we've all been time displaced to June 1st, 1982. So that was Cornerbox Classics for the week of June 1st, 1982. This is everything that I would have picked up. And I got to tell you, 5 out of 6 is pretty good. That is pretty good. That was a lot of great stuff this week. Really loved it. Spider-Man was great. Captain America was great. Hercules was an absolute blast. Micronauts, Thor was great. Wolverine was great, obviously, but really, like, it's funny because I know, the X-Men fan of me would be like, oh, Wolverine was my favorite. But I'm telling you, when I have to look at these books weekly instead of like what my overall impression is of everything, but if I'm just looking at this from if I had pedaled up to the bikes, if I'd pedaled my bike up to the comic book shop, bought all these, went home, tossed on some 80s record. I would have picked Hercules. Hercules would have been, like, Wolverine's got to be a close sight's great. But Hercules was really good, really funny, and just a good time, which is, you know, what more can you ask from a comic book? So there you have it. That's Cornerbox Classics this week. I'm jazzed about the way the room has turned out with the things that I did. Looking forward to showing that off some other time. And this Wednesday, we got new comics. And then next week's Cornerbox Classics has one of my all-time favorite Avengers covers. So that's something to look forward to. So yeah, let me know. You pick any of these up off the rack. Anything that you liked. Have I inspired you to read Hercules, Prince of Power? I hope so. Let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, that whole thing. I would really appreciate it. And I will see you on Wednesday with a new comic book day. Probably not a bike ride. It's going to be a bone. It's a very busy Wednesday. So, you know, there's that. But either way, there will be new comics on Wednesday. And then a Cornerbox Classics next week. So, thanks for taking this ride with us.